And here's Off the Cuff with Rashida Z. Rashida, what's going on?
Hey.
How are we feeling?
Great.
I'm
Amazing.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Why? Because we got you on the show, and today's gonna be a legendary
It is.
conversation.
Also seamlessly, because I saw you doing what you do, and I was like, I wonder what he's doing. And then we spoke, and now it's like 2 weeks later.
Literally 2 weeks later, and it's
Yeah.
crazy though because I think that's what divine timing looks like.
Yeah.
That's when you put out good energy, you meet so many people along the way, and you just connect automatically. And I think that's what it was. Like,
Yeah.
we saw each other. I saw you speaking to, the guest I had, which was Everett. And I'm like, yo, like, how do you guys, like, just a form of curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately led to us to this conversation. So I want to dive into it because I know you're somebody that has so many different gifts. And as I was doing my research on you, I saw a national anthem. I saw like you doing your thing, and I'm like, oh, now she could sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I thought about that like 2 weeks, maybe a week ago. And I was like, I really hope no one sees this video.
Wow.
Because that was not my best work.
Listen, but you was doing it, and then I saw you in the guitars, the pianos, and I'm like, oh wow. So when you see those gifts, it's like you finally walking into your purpose, right? And I think ultimately what's bringing you into this conversation today is the gift of photography. And you've leaned in as little as 8 years old. But I want to set the stage for you to really kind of showcase where the gift of photography really first started and kind of give us the larger story.
Wow. For me, the larger gift of photography started, honestly, from my dad. I grew up with a camera in the house. Like, he had his Canon, I don't know what model it is, but it was a film camera. And so growing up, we would always like be taking pictures. He would always take photos of us. I also really loved like the photo album in my childhood home. But in addition to that, there was not, I actually don't have a lot of imagery from my childhood. So I think my love for photography grew because of the lack thereof.
Wow.
Because I grew up in Antigua. And so I was born in Antigua, grew up in Portland, Maine, lived in Antigua till I was 8, and experienced multiple hurricanes. And so in the hurricanes, a lot of images got lost. So I actually don't have a lot of childhood imagery. So my love for photography, I think, grew from the lack thereof. And then also just like my love for life and my love for seeing how people operate and capturing people just from my vision, but also just like being able to like take a snapshot and record that, in life.
I love that. Yeah, for sure. And I think you having that relationship with your dad and kind of getting you that camera early on was kind of a seed planted.
Yes.
And you speak about like the lack of not having these moments. And I think oftentimes back then, right, is there are moments that were captured, but it's not like today. Like everything is detailed, everything is documented. But if you look back, is there a specific photo that you do still have that brings you back into that space or into a profound memory?
Yes. There's a photo of, hold on. There's a photo of me and my siblings and my cousins. We're sitting on the steps of my mom's shop in Antigua. And so this photo for me holds so many memories from my perspective in how I see things, and then also where I was raised and how I was raised and the people I enjoyed life with, meaning like my family. And so in the photo, we're sitting on these steps and there's a window looking into my mom's shop. And the shop that she had in Antigua, it was like a really tall building, and me and my siblings and family cousins, we would look up and the building would look like it was like falling and moving. And so that to me is like the one, I guess, like visual memory I have in also like perspective,
Mm.
with me thinking about perspective and my perspective and how I capture things, and then also just capturing candid moments of life happening with family and friends, because my favorite thing to capture are my nieces and nephews
Wow.
just like enjoying life. And so I think that photo kind of like ties all of those things together for me.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
love that.
that's a favorite photo.
I love that. And we got to see it though. You know, we
Yes.
definitely got to see it. And I
I need
think
to find it.
leaning into just documenting, right? I think
Mhm.
you do an amazing job of capturing energy when it comes from the lens. But I think you lean into family and you lean into kids a lot.
Mhm.
Where does that stem from?
Um, Stems from a lot of different places for me, but I think my large family and me growing up in Antigua till I was 8, and just like having the ability to enjoy life so freely, um, it excites me to be able to capture that in my imagery today, right? And
Right.
to allow people to be, am I answering the
Yeah,
question?
for
Yeah.
sure.
To allow people to be in how I capture them, to like open up this space of free movement
Mm.
and yeah, expression in how I capture. I enjoy letting people speak to me, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't really have a specific thing that I'm looking for. It's almost like when I'm shooting, I'll find it
Right.
if I allow the space to be. And um, I think how I grew up allowed me to understand that that is what life is.
Mm.
Um, and so the work that I do, I just always aim for that like life to be in the center
Yeah.
of it.
And I think that's important too because it's really creating that safe space for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ultimately you capturing these moments, they're also capturing stories.
Yeah.
And I think when you lean back into that picture, it was an imagery to showcase a story or a moment for a larger
Mm-hmm.
story. And I want to talk about the transition, right? Because you migrated at 8 years old to Maine, and it wasn't easy for you.
Yeah.
And I think you spoke about it, like do my research. You were a DACA recipient
Mm-hmm.
as well, and you had to do a lot of the things that you didn't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think I have it here where you said, you work as a hostess, a server, a floor manager at a couple of restaurants and department stores.
Yeah.
And I think the essence of this platform is to showcase what we don't see
Mm.
or the path to get to that next
Yeah.
level. And you also had mentioned too that you started to began feeling like you had a small taste of prison.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Looking back in hindsight, what do you think these moments or experiences really taught you?
Mm. Hmm. Those are great questions. I perseverance and having a sense of self.
Mm.
I think it taught me that knowing where I wanted to go, and being aware of the place I was at. Yeah, I think it taught me how to be like present, but also aware of where I wanted to get to in the future. Um, I think that so many thoughts are running through my mind, but the thought of like being in prison, right? Like working and being a DACA recipient, it's there was a lot of times I like put it out of my mind,
Mm.
because I just wanted to almost like survive, right? Just to make money and live. But being in all of these different positions, there was a part of me that enjoyed it because I enjoyed the aspect of like connecting with people, because a lot of the people I worked with are people who's like in my community now, right? And so it's like having a respect for the journey. I think that's like the top of the line for me, is like the journey. Like I always have respect for the journey. And so being, I don't know, like being in the position I'm at now and knowing where I was, it's like kind of mind boggling, because I feel like my head was like down and I was like, go.
Tunnel vision.
Right. Like tunnel vision. And I feel like I'm going off course, but it's it has taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot, and I refer back to those times often in the work that I do, because I'm constantly dealing with people. I'm constantly having to problem solve, right? So like working in the restaurant, you're like, you got to be on your toes. You got to be on your feet. Like I would have 12-hour days on my feet, right? I would go from babysitting. Wow. I would go from like babysitting to, sorry.
We here with you.
I would go from like babysitting and like being with my nieces and nephews, and then like to like Forever 21 from like 6 a.m. to like 12, and then from like 1 to 8 p.m. I would go to Fig and Olive and work. And so it was just like a lot of work. And I think for me, like growing up, seeing my mom work so hard, like effortlessly, gave me that energy to be able to work so effortlessly and not really like show how maybe tired I was. 'Cause I have like, my capacity is like very my capacity is very, very large for work. Like I actually like love work. But I think being able to kind of be present in the work that I was doing and enjoy it and not like be upset that I was in that position has allowed me to now like appreciate where I'm at. And I feel like I'm just like ready to like put my head up and like receive that, like, yes, I'm here and like I did a lot of work to get here, but what is it that I want to do now? Like how can I bring the power that I know I have and bring the desire to tell the stories that I want to tell? Like, how can I just do whatever I want? Because before it was like, you're doing what you need to do, what you got to do.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, like you can create the spaces that you want. So yeah, long-winded answer of, of like it, the journey has allowed me to see clearer and to see what I have the capacity for. And so these long days, long nights, like I know I'm capable of doing it. So just get the work done.
We love that.
Yeah.
And we're here for you. We're here. We appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
I know it's not easy, and when you kind of go down memory lane reflecting, but it's moments like this to say, we're proud of you. Be proud of yourself, and sometimes we don't often give ourselves the flowers, so we want to make sure that you deserve all the flowers. So we want to make sure that we continue to pour back into you because you did so much for yourself. So we're proud of you. So thank you for like making that space, sharing that story, and for honestly just again being who you are.
Thank you for creating this space.
Absolutely.
This is just so beautiful.
We here, and we definitely want to make sure that we get some, like some napkins or like some tissues.
I brought some.
Oh, we good. All right, I bet.
We
prepared. All right, so we already know. we already know. So it's something that
How's the makeup?
we know. Oh, you're good.
Great.
It's a safe space.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately I feel the energy. I feel my grandmother, who is left the mark in me, planted a
Yeah.
seed in me, and it's just contributing to her legacy, right? And I know she's up above looking at me to say, keep going. And I've always had this idea of, if my grandmother knew English, how far could she have gone? But I think it's a testimony, it's a story for me to develop and curate. And it's spaces like this,
Yeah.
when you feel like you see somebody else, you feel their passion, you feel their drive, and we see you. And as we continue to go through the aspect of your journey, I think as creators, as entrepreneurs, as freelancers, as freelance photographers, or diving into what used to be a passion ultimately turns into a career. And I think, let alone for myself, leaning into entrepreneurship this year alone has been super transformational in the best ways, but also in ways that I needed to learn more about myself, learning to heal, learning to really adapt in every scenario. And to your point about just surviving, right? But I'm curious to know for you, right, when you reflect on your journey from what we just touched about, when did you ultimately say to yourself, like, now is the time to take that leap of faith and to really take that bet on yourself, to lean into photography?
Yeah. I have definitely a few different moments of that. But I remember my older sister, Janelle, she would always tell me, she's like, why aren't you doing photography? Like, you're so good at it. Because I would always like take pictures of the kids and everything, literally everything with my phone. And I remember I think I went to Marfa, Texas with my friend. We took a trip out there, and and he ended up giving me his camera. And so when I came back to New York, I was just like, okay, let me like do these shoots. So I like, you would have some friends over. I'm like, hey,
Right.
can I like take photos of you here? Da, da, da. So that, I think that was like the first instinct of me being like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And then I could go all the way back to high school, because I count everything. I count every
Like,
moment
yeah.
of a realization. So in high school, when my dad bought me the camera, I decided that I wanted to make a business out of having a camera. And so I was taking people's senior photos.
Oh, wow.
And so like I was making money from that.
Yeah,
So,
why not, right? Yeah.
and then after that, my camera got stolen. And so that like, I let all of my desire to do it left. But I remember having a vision that I would be in New York as a photographer.
Wow.
And I will never forget this, and it sounds crazy saying it, but I will never forget that I had that vision when I got that camera and I was doing photography for my friend's senior photos. Anyway, so let's fast forward to, I think it was 2018, or 2016 was when I started to create a website and putting up the photos. 2018 is when I reached out to Mark Clennon, and I
Shout
was
out to Mark.
like,
Yeah.
and ironically, my friend that I got the camera from, he used to run the trips for Travel Noir. And Mark was on one of those trips with Jasmine.
Wow.
And Mark told him that he wanted to do photography full time. And so that's how I learned about Mark. And then when I was following Mark, I was like, let me see if he needs an assistant. Like, I need to do something. So I was still working in the restaurant industry, still doing all of the things that I have no idea at that what point I was doing. But I reached out to him and I was like, hey, if you need an assistant, like, I'm ready. Like, I want to assist you.
Wow.
And like, I'm already doing it. Like, I had my website up. I was already like in the industry, I guess, in my own world. But once I reached out to him, it was like, he was like, yeah, I have this shoot coming up. Can you assist me then? And from there, it was like, I just kept kept going.
Wow.
And yeah, it helped me to kind of see the possibilities of the industry, but also to believe that I could do the work as well, because our work was very similar, which is why I gravitated to him. And so then to go really full,
Yeah.
I think it was 2019, I was like, I'm going to go full time in photography. I'm busy. Like, I can't work in the restaurant anymore. Like, it's just exhausted. It was like, I need to put my focus into this. And so I think it was 2019, end of the year, I decided to quit my job as what was I doing? I was at ABC Kitchen in the office doing reservationists. I was doing reservations.
Wow.
And I had only picked up that job because the person working there, she was an events coordinator. She needed another person to work. And I had already tried to go full time, but as she needed my assistance, I did the thing that I do, and I try and help people. And so I was there for a while, and then towards the end of the year, I think it was like December 31st was my last day there.
Wow.
That morning, on December 31st, I woke up and I did a shoot. Protected, the series Protected. I did that shoot on my roof, 30 minutes. Had a holiday party that night. So set up for the holiday party with my roommates. Went to work for my last day.
Wow.
Worked until like, I think it was like 9 p.m. And then, or maybe it could have been like 6 or 7. Came home, did the holiday party. And I was full time.
Wow.
2020, January 1st, 2020.
Wow. And it's about to hit, what, 3 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 3
years, like,
4, yeah, officially.
Yeah. Full time. Yeah.
Wow. That's an amazing journey.
Yeah.
And I think the notion of that, of asking for help, of people seeing something in you before you even see it in yourself, and taking that risk and taking that leap of faith. And I think looking in hindsight, it's just so phenomenal to see how much you have grown. And now to say, like, I'm able to be a full-time photographer, happy in what I'm looking to do, it's just moments like that to say, bet on yourself, dream big. There's no perfect time. The time is now. And to share that and to hear that is just inspiring. As a first year into this, I'm like, protect that journey, protect that vision, but just keep going.
Yeah.
Intentionality and authenticity is super, I would say, even priorities within your list of how you approach things. And we've seen your phenomenal work. I think you bring a lot of good energy in a lot of the subjects, a lot of the people. Ultimately, the people that you collaborate with is all aligned when it comes to authenticity. How do you approach projects, or what's your methods of tackling projects where the values of the project align with your own values? And how do you filter the ones that maybe don't?
I try my hardest to have most projects I work on align with my values. Whether it's me helping a friend out for their personal brand, and I'm like, you don't have the budget, like, it's okay. I'll give some feedback, or we'll make it happen. Yeah. I so many different fields. Okay, personal projects for me, I don't shoot anything personal if there's not a story behind it, or if I can't like find the story. If it's just like a casual shoot and then I pull the photos after, I'll try to align something to it that is meaningful, something to it that speaks to a cause that I care about, or speaks to like the freedom of like of people being free and happy and joyful. I love joy in my work. I love capturing people in a dignifying way. I love dignity. I like strength.
Yeah, for sure.
So I hope am I answering?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So I think, yeah, I don't know. There's so much work that comes to me. Like, I do a lot of event work. I do portraiture. I do headshots. I really preferably enjoy editorial work, but I think with editorial, there's a lot that can go into it, but for the most part, there's this nice, like, whimsical feeling of where you get to like let the world be around you, and kind of let what you're creating to speak to you, right? So if I have a concept, I'll share with maybe the model or the stylist or the makeup artist, depending on what we're shooting, and I'll share what the concept is. And my rule of thumb is to give them that and to trust their creativity, because I also want to have that freedom of space to trust my creativity. So whoever has a hand in the projects that I'm doing, I really am like kind of hands off. Like, I won't, I unless you ask for my opinion, and I'll give it, but I lean into trusting the people whom I'm working with. Because if I don't, then, because I know how it feels to not be given the reins to my creativity. I've been in spaces where I've been shooting and someone's trying to tell me what to do, and then afterwards I'm like, this is not what I envisioned, or I can feel that I wasn't 100% there, right? Because there's many voices, right? So if a makeup artist is doing the makeup, like, do your job. Like, you you know what you're here to do it. We have the concept all aligned. So, do what you need to do. If I have a lighting tech coming in, it's like being clear with what the vision is, and trusting that the person can deliver. Which then also goes into, like, knowing people who are good at what they do. And I would pride myself to say that the community and the network that I've found myself in, like, just so many talented people, So, like, when people are talented, like, let them cook.
Cook.
I'd be like, chef it up,
Yeah.
And if I can be of support in any way, then I show up in that way. But yeah, my creative process is very much about trust and clarity, in whatever it is that I'm doing. Even if it's like the simplest thing as doing an event, like, I ask questions. I'm like, okay, like, what is it that you want these photos to feel like? Do you trust me? Like, I literally will ask my clients, like, do you trust me to just do? If not, like, what is it that you want out of this? What's the color palette that you like? Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think you kind of conceptualize and you ask the right questions to ensure that the goal is achieved. And you touch upon community. You touch upon, like, having a Rolodex where you're able to kind of piece the pieces together. And I think you do an amazing job, and you should pride yourself to that, because you've built authentic relationships that over time that people will show up for you in many ways as you showed up for them. And I think ultimately I want to lean into that, because in the industry that we're in, that's always ongoing, very fast paced, especially with creative projects, right? Of one gig to the next gig, it can sometimes feel very transactional. And I think it often overlooks the relationship when looking to build with people. How do you go about providing or building those authentic relationships with people, knowing that it's a human first and then everything else comes secondary? How do you go about doing that?
Most of the people I work with, I typically don't know what they do until, like, sometimes the years after. And now I'm trying to be a little bit more intentional, especially if I'm in networking spaces, to ask the question. But it was a question I strongly disliked, like, oh, what do you do? Because I'm like, I want to know who you are as a person. Like, I prefer to like go out to eat with you, grab coffee, like hang out. If I don't get to do that, then I'm probably not going to ask to work with you unless, I don't know, unless it's like a referral situation. But yeah, I think it's going back to the statement that you said of it being like really fast paced, a fast paced, wow,
environment,
environment.
transaction, all of that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's I struggle with that because I'm so like nurturing and I like to like really cultivate relationships. So sometimes I feel bad if it has to be transactional. So I think that's almost prevented me from asking for help in certain situations. Like, example, 2 days ago, or actually last week, I was meant to I meant to meet up with a friend, or a new friend. He's a vocal coach and helps with like, people speaking in this way. And we were supposed to meet up last week, and we had been talking about like connecting and seeing how we can work together for like a few months, like since I think must have been like September when we connected. And we had to cancel the meetup last week, but one of the things we said, we're like no, like let's just meet on some like connection, like let's get to know each other, let's just actually just talk. And so we didn't get to do it. And so the other night I was like, oh, like how can I prepare for this? Because one of the things I want to get better at is speaking, and I want to use my voice more. I don't think I use my voice as much, especially online. I don't think I use my voice as much as I would like to. And so as I was like contemplating, like, okay, how can I prepare for this talk with Cristian, off the cuff?
On brand.
How can I prepare for this vocally? And I was sitting on my couch at night and I was like, oh shoot, I should hit up Quentin. And I was like, oh, but like I don't want to like ask him for help when we haven't even like connected. Like we haven't even like hung out. Like we exchanged a couple texts, and I was like, nope, you're in a season of asking for help, even when it doesn't feel, even when the timing doesn't feel right to you because of your own, I guess like holdbacks. Like thing that holds me back is like, I want the connection first. I want a relationship first. But it's so life is fast paced. Like I do things at such a fast pace. I have work going on. I have all of these things going on. So it feels like the more work that I do and the more I elevate in my work is the more that I just need to kind of like act on the thoughts that I have. Now, that's not to say that in the future I can't plan ahead of time, but now I know that this person is a resource for me, right? And so, yeah, I think that story kind of, for me, identifies how I like to build my relationships, how I like to keep my relationships. A lot of times it's really difficult to stay communicating with the people I care about, like my family. Like I have a big family, so talking with my family is, that also takes up time, but it matters to me to check in with my family. I know I'm going off of,
no, for sure. But I think it's important. Yeah.
But yeah, like checking in with family, checking in with friends, even sending like a quick text message. Like most of the people I work with are my friends. And so also like creating that divide is very important to me. It's like, are we talking about business or are we checking in? Are you checking in on me because you care about me, or is this a text about work? And so vice versa, I try to make sure that like I'm not only hitting people up for work, but I'm also checking in on them as a person.
Yeah. I think finding that healthy balance has been an eye-opening experience for me as well. Leaning into entrepreneurship for so long, right, for yourself is just how do you create those healthy balance with the people that you love, but also in the same thing achieving the dreams or the callings that you were meant to do, but making sure that one or the other doesn't get left behind.
Yeah.
And it's a tough space to create that balance. And I think, ultimately we're on the path to evolve, to grow. But I think the first step is understanding that that's an area of growth or that's an area of opportunity. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I'm always learning from every interaction. I'm always gaining for something from an individual, and I'm being inspired by them as well along the way without them even knowing, right? And you take so much from people. So I think you sharing that is like feedback and a seed planted for me to say, okay, there's other ways to handle this. There's different notions of this, but always lean in of what that initial interaction, initial connection was from the start, from the standpoint, and being able to filter out, okay, is this work? Is this personal? Is this more checking in? And so on and so forth. So I think you've done an amazing job doing that, and just can't wait to see that growth evolve with your tribe and your community as well. And the OTC family's here for you for sure. And it's a family that we pride ourselves, because at the end of the day, you're on the show understanding you do phenomenal work, which is great, but we want to understand the foundational work that's within, and that's you being a good person. So we wanted to share that. As we lean into kind of the last couple of questions here, I want to talk about believing in ourselves. I was having a conversation with my therapist the other day, and I was just telling him how fruitful the last couple of months have been, for off the cuff to just the power of prayer, leaning in. And I was telling him, I'm just so on a high from these events I'm doing. And he's like, why are you so surprised? He's like, this is everything you've been praying for. Why are you so surprised? He said to me, at what point in your life do you sit down to yourself and just say that you deserve this? And I was stuck with that question because I didn't know how to answer it. And the more I thought about it, I'm just like, the lifestyle where I grew up, it was small beginnings, humble beginnings. And a lot of my family didn't, show the path of what can be achieved or what dreaming big looks like. And I think that's my way of showcasing that. But you said something very similar in that aspect of believing yourself, of taking that ownership. And you said this in other platforms, and I want to share it. It says, for a long time, I wouldn't celebrate my wins because I didn't view them as wins. I saw them as just another step that I took in life. Because of this, I delayed tapping into my full potential because I was just unable to see it. That resonates with me so much. When we try to talk about humility and taking pride and ownership of our wins, where do you think that stemmed from? And are you at a place now to say, I am celebrating my wins. I am giving myself those flowers I deserve?
I'm definitely giving myself the flowers now.
Nice. Let's get it.
It's uncomfortable though. Like it helps to have people who support you and also are like constantly celebrating your wins and what you do. But I realized what changed the way that I looked at it was I realized how disrespectful it was for me to not acknowledge like my greatness, right? Because my greatness isn't me. It's God. It's the universe. It's the beauty that I see in the world. And if I'm not accepting of that, then like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? Why am I creating? If I'm not respecting the ideas that's coming into my mind that are, it's not a mean thing. Like the things that I want to create, it's not doing anything bad in the world. So I think once I kind of like switch of like, yo, like you're being rude, like it's like disrespectful to not clap for the things that you're doing, because it's not me. Like I'm just the vessel. Like I'm just the vessel that's like pouring out the goodness that I see in people in the world. And if I'm unable to accept that, if I'm unable to like to put the work out, then you know that, like I think it's just as simple as that. And I say it's difficult, but being humble in it, like I do want to remain humble in what I do, because it really isn't about me, but I also need to respect the work that I put my body through, the long nights that I'm like working on things that I think matter. Because if I don't do it now, then the bigger things I want to do won't be able to happen, because I'm not creating the building blocks, right? Like I'm not putting out the things that I need to build upon. And so I think maybe the last year I've really been like pushing myself towards that feeling. And I'm forgetting like the phrase you used in the beginning of the question.
Of at what point do you sit to yourself, or you sit down and say to yourself that you deserve this?
Yeah, it's now. I'm like, because I'm living, like we're all deserving of good things. Like we're all deserving of the good things that we create. We deserve to receive the ideas that we have, that we want to bring to the world. Like if I can't see that I deserve it, then there's no way that I can create the space for other people to show and do the things that they love, and for them to feel that they're deserving of the life that they're living and the creative things that they want to do. And I guess ultimately, like my goal is to like inspire people to work at the things that they want to do the creative things that they think of, to support them in that way. Like, it's supporting people is like a huge part of my gift and my what do you call it? My goal in life is to support people. So I have to see that I'm doing what I'm doing.
I love that.
That I'm deserving of it.
You are. Every standpoint, everything you just mentioned resonates super well, because it's the first step. And I love how you said we are a vessel being used to pour out the goodness of God, of being able to see the good in people and being able to multiply that love and continue to pour that out. And from what we talked about, right, we touch upon in different aspects of your journey. But ultimately, I'm going to set the stage for you to say, from your story overall, what do you want the people, the audience, to take away from it?
That's a good question. Time. That like timing is everything, but it's also nothing at all. Like if you don't take the time to invest in yourself, time's going to keep going and it's also going to stay still, right? Like the concept of time is just it's what we make it. So I think time has been something that's been like, and even today, like I was like, what is time? I'm running late. Okay. Like cool. Communicate.
Right.
You know? if I want to do the thing, I'm going to do it. If I don't want it bad enough, then I'm not going to do it. So yeah, I think time, like paying attention to time, but also don't hold it too tight, like because we're not in control of time. We're not in control of the timing of when things align or when things should align. If you put the intention out there and then you put in the work towards the intention, then at some point the things are going to connect. You know, if you trust that what you're doing is going to have an effect on your life or on one other life or on the world, or whatever it may be. If it's going to have an effect, trust that timing will align. So yeah,
I love that.
I think that's, yeah.
I love that. Time is of the essence,
Time
right?
is of the essence. Yeah.
You know, in the last question here, you know, we're always a platform where we give people their flowers. So I want to give you your flowers for everything that you have contribute to the community, to the people around you, but ultimately, most importantly, back to yourself. For where you have started to where you are is just a transformational testimony to say that when you take the bet on yourself, when you lean in, when you don't look back of the things that you went through, but fully lean in opportunities and blessings, you make room for those blessings. So I want to give you the flowers that you deserve for those tireless nights, for everything that you continue to contribute, but the evolution and the growth that you will see the year after, the year after that, the year after that. So just thank you for being who you are.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And we always flip it back to the guest to say, who would you give your flowers to?
Ooh. I would give my flowers to Karsten, skinny, behind the camera here.
Let's go.
Yeah. One, I really enjoy giving flowers to not just the people, but my friends, and I call them coworkers because there are just so many people that in that our network that work so hard, but also like show up in so many different ways for each other, whether it's like giving advice or showing up to pull up with the camera and the lights. So yeah, I would give my flowers to him because he's,
amazing.
Amazing. We know Skinny. Skinny was here, literally plastered everywhere.
We gotta leave the stamp right here.
Yeah. But yeah, I will definitely giving my flowers to him because he's the most amazing being. Thank you.
That. My man, Skinny. You know, and then, you know, as we wrap up here, where are you now mentally, spiritually, and creatively?
I am in such a great space. I've been telling people that. I'm like, y'all, I feel so good. I'm like, I'm tired, but but I'm in a good space. I would even say like from 2020 to now, I don't know, 2020 was wild because everything that happened. But as I was inside, I knew that there was something more that I needed to work on, and especially within my work, and to be intentional about the work I was creating. I always was intentional and I've remained intentional, but I found myself in this world of working events and doing, which I loved. But then like, I think like midpoint of this year, I was like, what am I? I'm like, Rashida, you want to do all these things and you haven't even like really done the work to do it. And you say you want to do it, but you're not doing it. And so I talk to myself a lot. Like I'm very, you know, I have to tell myself what I'm not doing well, right? And it's like, if you say you want to do this, what are the steps that you need to take to do it? So, you know, I've experienced a lot of burnout this year. And after the last burnout, which was in October, which is in October, I was like, what do you need to do to not burn out? And also look at your, like, I had to like step back and look at my life. And I said I was not going to take that much work in November and into December. And doing that helped me kind of see that I was doing just fine, but also that I had more work that I wanted to do, personal work that I wanted to do. And so, yeah, I feel good mentally. That. I feel like I've made decisions to move into different spaces, to put in the work.
Yeah.
Feel like I have the energy to put in the work.
Let's get it. Yeah.
I'm like ready to rest more. But also like, you know, to do the work.
Absolutely.
Again and again.
And walking in that purpose. Yeah. Listen, Rashida, I told you this was going to be a legendary episode. Thank you for just your honesty. Thank you for being you.
Thank you.
And just creating a space where it's safe. And
thank you for creating a space where it's safe.
Thank you. You know, it's just like you said, it's a vessel and it's energy flowing.
Yeah.
You're sharing, I'm sharing, we're both sharing. It's a labor of love, you know, but I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you again for your story, and we wish you ongoing success and all the blessings.
Thank you. Likewise.
Appreciate you. And there you have it. That was Off the Cuff with Rashida Z.